So we're going to be going into a video today on what it means to make life very, very easy. Life can be easy, life can be hard. You can go out to a bar or club and you could be terrorized by it and afraid to say hi to people, or you could just view it as a big, fun, enjoying night. You can make making money really, really tough and want to bang your head against the wall and be in a state of fear, or you can make millions and millions of dollars super duper easy if you understand the basic paradigm of is life going to be easy or hard. Now, I'm sitting here in San Diego, and I'm going to be running an amazing free event here just this weekend. And funny enough, you can see the Gaslamp district right behind me. I'm running an amazing event here this weekend in San Diego. There's going to be another one completely for free in Los Angeles. By the way, I'd recommend that you fly in for both of them. They're going to be completely and utterly awesome. Click the link below. I'm going to show you how I do all this stuff in person. And by the way, if you can't make it, then the other option could be I do a free course, which is also incredible, even though I'd love for you to fly in. So click the other link for the free course where I cover the very, very best epiphanies that I cannot post on social media inside that free course. So click on that, or just fly in or drive in to the San Diego and LA event. I got events all over the country and all over the world coming up, so if you want to see if your city's on the list, click that as well. But the basic idea is that whenever you come and see me public speaking, you'll probably see me come in there, and I might be speaking from mid-afternoon until very, very late at night. And what you're going to see is I often have nothing prepared in my head, and I will come up with entirely new curriculums very, very, very easily, and my voice will be booming over the crowd, and I'll have the most energy of anybody in the room, which is sort of funny to think about because I'm doing the most work, and you're just going to see me come in there and crank it. I'd love for you to see that. Likewise, maybe you come out with me to a bar or club, and you'll see me go in there and I'm meeting everybody. I'm not drinking any alcohol. I have no social anxiety. I'm enjoying talking to everybody. It's just very, very easy. Or maybe you want to come and work with me. And what you'll see is I'll help you to design a multi-million-dollar product launch if you have the kind of business that can accommodate that. If you're newer, maybe we design something a lot smaller. Can't promise that, but it's something that I do all the time. And I've also done over $100 million in sales myself. So this is not something that I do and is difficult. This is something that I do and is very, very easy. Now, when I first started, all of this stuff was very, very difficult, all of it. And I've had periods in my life where I also get around people who make it difficult, and they can even begin to infect my mind. And everything just gets really, really hard because I let the wrong people into my head. But what I found is if I can stay around other people in the same mode, or just kind of stay in my own energy, and if I can keep the exact perspective that I'm sharing here, that this stuff is very, very easy, then what I find is when it comes to generating millions of bucks, when it comes to socializing, when it comes to having energy to do public speaking, when it comes to just enjoying the day, whatever else, life can be easy, life can be hard, and there's a very, very specific perspective that allows you to do this. So I'm going to be sharing this with you, again, like I said, because I'm doing an incredible free event right here in San Diego. We're doing free events all over the country, all over the world. My team's doing them. Click the link below to come. Incredible. And make sure that you get the free course, okay? But what you're going to be learning in the free event and in the free course, click the link now, is something that is based on this exact principle that life doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy if you know how to think about it in the correct way. So I want to shoot into this with a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm talking in great detail about how things like making a lot of cash or getting social results or public speaking can be easy. And there's something very, very cheesy and cliche about the slick self-help guru saying, it could all be super duper easy, right? Like, you know, it's always going to be like the slick guru that says how easy it is. It has some huge, controversy, like they go down in flames. And, if the world goes in some massive depression, I'm not saying that I would be oblivious to it or that I couldn't be affected. I'm not saying that I couldn't have a bad night out. I haven't been sick in 10 years, but I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, even though I don't think that it will. I actually don't even get bit by bugs, believe it or not, but I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. I could go out and get eaten by a bear, and we're all going to have a big chuckle by it, okay? So bad things can happen to anybody. They can certainly happen to me. I just want to share with you a general frame of something that I found helpful that seems to have helped so far. I don't know how deep this goes. I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, but I think you might like it. Now, here's the frame, and then I'm going to share with you the story with how I stumbled onto the frame. the general frame that I come from, and you're gonna laugh at this, but I find it very, very helpful, is I try to imagine what heaven and hell would look like. And then I try to envision what it would be like to kind of pull down that energy of heaven or to pull up that energy of hell. So what does heaven look like? What does hell look like? And a basic way of thinking about it, you have your own way of thinking about it. It's just a thought experiment, okay? This is a little thought experiment. But you could imagine that heaven, everything would be easy. Everybody would be friends with each other. People wouldn't be insecure. People wouldn't be dopamine junkies. People wouldn't have weird addictions. People wouldn't be angry. People wouldn't be enemies with each other. And it's almost like you could just float around and you'd be at peace and you'd have this incredible sense of absolute deep completion and total, utter fulfillment. And then from that place of total completion and fulfillment, you could just manifest your dreams and it would be effortless, and that would be heaven. We could all be together, not fighting with each other. We could be friends, be a family. Think how beautiful that could be. And funny enough, if you read Jesus' part in the Bible, for example, the Sermon on the Mount, there's major portions about forgiveness, about helping your enemies, and really everything that I see in the Sermon on the Mount, which you can read. David Suchet has an incredible audio. David Suchet, S-U-C-H-E-T, has an incredible reading of the Sermon on the Mount, or Book of Matthew, Book of Mark, Book of Luke, Book of John. And you can read these, okay? And they're just absolutely mind-blowing. And if you look at it, every single thing in the Gospels is really pointing at this idea of transcending this sort of inner heaviness and this inner resistance and embodying the kind of mentality that would allow your soul to be at peace, so that when you die, your soul would resonate with that beautiful place beyond the veil. So maybe even go read those books if you want to just do that. Maybe it's a little thought experiment. Doesn't even mean you have to get into it. Just do it as a thought experiment. It's kind of fun. Now, from there, what you could do is you think about what does the energy of hell look like. It's everybody's against each other. You have a lot of addiction and stress and pain and frustration, agony, and everything's hard. And everybody's against each other. Everybody's bickering. People are small. Everything's just so incredibly difficult. Everything is scarce. There's no fulfillment, no completion. In some Eastern religion, they would call that the land of hungry ghosts, where you've got this giant belly, but your mouth is a straw. And no matter how much you suck in, it's never enough. And then as a result of that, it creates all this different neurosis. And I'm not saying that things like mental illness is caused by somebody pulling up the energy of hell. I really wouldn't know that. But if you study psychiatry, you can study, for example, there's a channel by a guy called Sam Vaknin. Look up Sam Vaknin. And he talks about narcissism, borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic. It's this whole idea called cluster B. And Sam Vaknin goes really, really deep on it. And he's not a big fan of life coaches, funny side note. And I get his reasons why. So what's up, Sam? We could chat sometime. So Sam Vaknin, what he'll cover is this idea of how, due to things that often, it's not 100% of the time, but due to things that can happen in childhood, the mind can begin to fragment, and it winds up, compensating in all these different ways, where it's a lot like the person is living in hell on earth. And it's funny because we tend to analyze this within a psychiatric frame, but just a thought experiment, it would be funny to analyze a lot of this cluster B stuff, sociopaths, borderline, so on and so forth, to actually imagine that through a spiritual lens, or as a spiritual crisis, and what it means to feel empty inside, and what it means to be a taker, or what it means to delight in the pain of others, or what it means to feel so empty that you need another person around all the time and are terrorized by the feeling of abandonment because you don't have that beautiful Holy Spirit inside of yourself, such as in borderline personality disorder. So this is kind of heavy stuff, right? But just as a simple thought experiment, try to think about, maybe even check out Sam Vaknin's channel for the kind of hell on earth, and then maybe look up David Suchet and the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, especially the book of Matthew, the book of John, and look that up for an example of heaven on earth. And as take it as a thought experiment if you wish. You may find it easier to digest that as metaphorical thought experiments of what it means to be in heaven. And so what you'll find is that you go into a space in your mind where, in the low level, where you're feeling abandoned and in hell, everything's just really, really difficult. And it becomes difficult to concentrate. It's difficult to have any kind of lateral thinking or higher order thinking. It becomes difficult to for a lot of people under stress, what I've read, and I'm not an expert on this, but a lot of people who I've read say that it can increase illness. Again, I've just read studies on this. I'm not an expert or giving medical advice, but they say that stress can increase illness. So imagine, you're getting sick all the time, and you're in poverty, and your mind can't utilize higher order thinking, and you're viewing people as your enemy, and you're feeling empty, and so on and so forth, versus feeling complete and feeling centered. Now, how does this wind up manifesting into making money, or into being a better public speaker, or into socializing, or things like that, right? Getting better socially. How does it manifest? What I find happens is that from that feeling of completion, it frees up mental capital. It frees up emotional bandwidth. See, the truth is you're probably a genius and you don't even know it. Because even the dumbest person in the world, if they could just free up all that mental capital, is basically a genius by comparison to most other people. Not even because you're genetically a genius, okay, that'd be called a grandiose in the Sam Vaknin world, but the idea that most people are so weighed down in insecurity and so weighed down in these various different mental filters and smallness and separateness. They're so weighed down by that their mind is probably working at a 5% capacity. So even somebody who's naturally very, very dumb, if you can actually sort of take on that heaven on earth mindset, and if you get your brain up to say 30% capacity or 50% capacity, or I don't know, let's just say somehow it was 100% capacity, or let's say that it was a potential even beyond that, which we're even familiar with, right? Well, then what happens is that you wind up becoming a much, much more intelligent person. It's absolutely amazing, okay? But that is without all of these different filters. Funny enough, I even mentioned grandiosity. Even grandiosity, thinking that you're so great, actually becomes a negative filter because you can't see reality correctly, and you wind up bumping into reality, which winds up grinding you down. So the less of these kind of like scarcity, insecurity, emptiness, grandiosity, low attention span, feeling frustrated, having enemies, being separate, the more that we can get out of that and things being hard, and the more that we can get into, like, rather than feeling confident from this ego-fueled grandiosity, how about just feeling confident because your mind is just sharp and on point? You're just at a point where you're not burning down mental capital with all these weird, heavy energies and insecurities. Real confidence, not just a sort of like an ego deflection web that you've built. Real confidence. What would that look like? And then from that standpoint, can you make money more easily? Can you socialize more easily? Does it increase mental bandwidth? Like what does that do for you? So in understanding this, it can completely change your life. What I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna talk to you about the story of how I figured this stuff out. It's sort of like just a kind of random funny story. Not as like kind of woo as this, like a little bit more grounded to the earth. So let's just kind of jump around here in San Diego. We'll go into that next, and I really, really hope to change your life. So I'm 43 years old, and I want to share with you how I stumbled onto these different ideas, which happened for me in my early 20s, okay? Now, back in my early 20s, what happened was I was looking to get better with social skills. I wanted to become better at befriending people, at attracting people, at bringing new people into my life. And so the first thing that I did was I looked online. And online, there was this sort of underlying frame with some of the social advice that we're all a bunch of losers and we're all unattractive. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna, speak hypnotically or use these different prepared scripts in order to demonstrate specifically attractive qualities about ourselves that we'll sort of recite over and over. And a lot of this stuff I still found to be very, very helpful, and I'm very, very grateful for the people that at least, put out the best ideas they had. And by the way, to be clear, as I have evolved as a teacher, many of the people that were around then also evolved as teachers. So all of us evolved a tremendous amount since that time. So even people that taught that back then have a lot of new stuff to teach, as do I. And so, it's been 2 decades, right? Things changed in 20 years. So what wound up happening was I'd go out and I would do that, and at least it gave me kind of like a magic pebble in my pocket to give me the confidence to go and meet people. But what I found was I would initially go into, say, a social gathering, say a bar club as an example, and I would feel like I was really, really isolated and small, and I would feel like I was being judged, and I would pray for people to like me. I was terrified. And then what I found was, if a bunch of people in a row didn't like me, I would go deeper and deeper into my head, and it was like I was in a hell on earth, and people became very, very scary to me, and I got very, very intimidated, and then my energy would get very dark and heavy and negative and frenetic, and then I'd wind up sort of energetically pushing people away. So later what would sometimes happen, and it was really just by fluke, but sometimes a couple people in a row would actually be really interested to talk to me or even have attraction. And all that it would take was 2 or 3 people in a row to be receptive to me. And that would sort of give me the external, and this is not the best, I'm just saying where I came from at the time. I totally evolved from this. But at the time, it kind of gave me that little bit of encouragement that I needed. It was really external validation, which ideally you don't rely on that, but I'm just saying how I felt at the time when I was starting. It gave me the external validation that I needed to feel good about myself and stop questioning myself. So now all of a sudden, I wasn't trapped in my head analyzing every little thing that I said and hoping that it was good enough and coming from the seller's frame that I'm selling myself to the other person. But instead what happened was I felt like the good energies with me now, I felt more like I'm the buyer who's thinking of being into the other person, but I'm a little bit more judging them, not like in a negative way, like I'm judging you, but just more like, the good energies with me, I feel good in my own body. I don't really need validation from you because I was kind of, it's not the best, but at the time when I was a lot younger, I was riding the high of that external validation. And then what wound up happening was because I wasn't so trapped in my head judging myself, all of a sudden I had unlimited things to say. I didn't need hypnotic language or, a prepared script to know what to say. I became funny. I became charismatic. I had all these stories. I had a lot of wit. Even my voice, which was very, very tight, would open up and my vocal projection would be amazing. Incredibly attractive trait, by the way. That's why we teach this. That's what happens when you feel good about yourself. My eye contact became laser focused. And so I kind of compiled into a better person where everything was just easier. Now, by the way, I mentioned Sam Vaknin, who talks about things like narcissism, and what he might even say, and I don't know, I'd love to talk to him. He might call that you kind of were like a decompensated narcissist who got narcissistic supply, and then that sort of fed you. And whether that's exactly the case or not there, I wouldn't know. But what I would say is that even doing anything similar to that where you need external validation, that's not the best place to be coming from, right? Ideally, you already have that within you going into it. Well, I was somebody who was lightly autistic and somebody who's really, really struggling. So for me, I don't know if there was any magical therapy class, therapy that I could have gone to or some, magical course I could have taken or meditation that I could have done that would have just healed me and showed me how to be that person that was just internally validated. To be honest, getting my first little taste of external validation, it kind of gave me a frame of reference that I don't have to be in my head all the time. I don't have to be trapped in my mind. Well, it was funny because what wound up happening was there was this really, really popular book that I knew was going to come out. It's by Neil Strauss. And I knew that was coming out. And so we were teaching, and I was thinking to myself, if we keep teaching to use these kind of scripts, I feel like when the book comes out, that's going to get very, very played out. Everybody's going to know about it. So I knew the book's coming out in about 2 years. I had about a 2-year advance notice, okay? So it was like 2003, 2004, and I know the book's coming out in late 2005. So I begin to say to myself, I want to work on just meeting people without using any kind of a script. Okay, this is close to 20 years ago, without even using any kind of a script, and just trying to kind of teach my mind to get in that exact same vibe that I'd get in on a great night. And so what I started doing was studying what it was that allowed me to feel that way. And I started studying what it meant to heal, what it meant to have genuine self-worth, what it meant to feel worthy to meet other people, and what it meant to feel like you have value just for you, just by existing. You might call that just being a child of God. Just existing, what does that mean to just feel good? And it was kind of a funny thing because the first time that I tried just meeting somebody without anything prepared and just saying hi, I noticed that my knee started shaking, and my knee shook so hard that I smashed my knee into the other knee and I bruised my knee. And I realized at that point, I'm like, I've worked really hard to get better socially, but clearly if I can't just go say hi to somebody, how far have I really come? And really I was somebody who I'd had some great results and I had something to share, and I'm sharing that with other people that are not as far along as me. But this is me at about 23, 24, 43 now as I'm recording this, probably seeing this even in the future. What's up? Maybe seeing it after I'm dead. What's up from beyond? And so what I'm saying is I kind of realized, I'm like, look, I'm teaching people that are not quite as far along as me, but I clearly have a lot further to go. That's kind of a philosophy that I've always had, is keep uncovering things about yourself, keep seeing where you're weak, keep seeing where you're going wrong, be open-minded to feedback. It's okay not to be perfect. Just keep taking feedback, keep improving, keep doing better. That's why I'm always studying. So, I get kind of like a high and a confidence from being open to feedback and being shown wrong. I feel like anytime that I'm shown wrong, I grow. So I associate being shown wrong as growth. So I should get excited by that. Maybe it hurts my ego a touch, but overall I enjoy it, even though it hurts a touch because I'm human. So, but again, imagine being in heaven where it doesn't hurt your ego, okay? Funny point. Okay, all right, we're back. So I went and did this, and over time what I found was that my social results went up and up and up, way past anything that I'd done in the past. And then what I found was that my public speaking got better. And then I found that me recording videos got easier. Then I found that life just sort of took on its own flow. So a lot of what this was, like I said, was finding genuine self-worth. But weirdly, the underlying framework that I took is just imagine that you're in heaven. I know that's weird. If you're not into that, that's okay. You don't have to be into that. Okay, you could be a total atheist, that's fine. But just take it as a thought experiment if that helps you. Imagine that you're in heaven and you're sucking that energy down. Now, over time what I've seen, and this is kind of a funny thing, and this is where it gets really, really quirky. You want me to, I'll tell you some really, really quirky stuff. I have found that the darkest, densest people hate this frame like no other. And commonly, it could be other people that work on building social skills, and they'll say, that's stupid, you need the method, and they'll say that, right? This is too abstract. And so I'll meet up with them when we go out, and I'm thinking like, wow, they have this amazing method, I'd like to learn from it, but the results are nothing that I'm personally blown away by. So they're saying, I'm about results, I'm not about the process. I'm about results. Owen says it's about the process, but I say it's about results. So like, I'm branding myself as a results person, but then I see the results, it's not that great. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, another holy text, it's one from the East, or in the Tao Te Ching, another holy text, what they talk about is connecting to the process itself, connecting to the flow, connecting to the Tao. Okay, the Bhagavad Gita says we're not entitled to the fruit of the action, just the process itself. You might have read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And in my view, this is the same idea, which in the Bible is expressed in metaphors, but in parables. But in the Tao Te Ching or in the Bhagavad Gita is a story, and the Tao Te Ching is just very direct, it's poetic. And the Power of Now just kind of breaks it all down, chunk by chunk. So I sometimes the best way to enter this, the Power of Now. But there's something about just being to the process itself that's in a weird way kind of resembles that idea of heaven. Now, why is that? Because the idea of heaven in the infinite is that it is everlasting process. Does this make sense? And so, as a metaphor, as a thought experiment, it's like the devil says, I don't want to be a part of the everlasting infinite process. I want the result. I want ego. I want to be special. I want to be better. I want to be grandiose. I want to be different. So I'm leaving. Why serve in heaven when you can rule in hell? And so what happens is that through that narcissism or specialness and not wanting to be a part of the ocean, but wanting to separate, then what winds up happening is that we develop ego. And in books like the Tao Te Ching, the ego is expressed as an impediment to accessing that eternal flow. So, or things like needing the result in the Bhagavad Gita takes us away from the beautiful process itself. In the Bible, they'd say that being an evil person and not acting through the Holy Spirit is something that will send you to hell. Okay, I'm kind of paraphrasing this here. People that study this more closely than me, even though I study it very closely, could actually go into specifics even more, and they could help improve this. So you see the point, okay? So we're seeing some kind of commonalities in holy texts and what it means to sort of bring down that energy. Commonalities. The process is eternal. How do we imagine the process? Flowing, expanding, infinite, light, playful, easy, collaborative, part of the flow. How do you imagine heaviness? Separate, grandiose, need to be better, competitive, enemies, different, fighting, aggressive, etc., etc. You see where I'm going with this? So this is the kind of thing where if you could just tap into that energy, you kind of wind up getting that same result that I found with social skills. And life just gets easier and easier and easier. And over time, what you can do is you can actually take this exact same energy, which I've really utilized for social skills to go out and have a blast, and for things to be very, very easy. You can use that in business. You can use that in vitality, use it in public speaking, free social public speaking like I'm doing here, and many, many other things. So why don't we actually shoot down there, or we'll shoot somewhere, just keep switching the shot up, and we'll keep going and show you how to make life easy and tap into that divine energy in your own life. So so one of the big things that sold me on this way of thinking was that friends of mine that have very, very dense energy and that are very, very separate, and the kind of friends that I have that tend to make life harder than it has to be, they can't stand this way of thinking. Now, I want to make sure that we distinguish this between people that are maybe a little more logical, maybe a little more structured, versus people a little more abstract and spiritual. It's not just that. That's part of it. Like, that's maybe 20, 30% of it. But what I'm talking about is this almost vampiric, like you're going to Dracula and you show the cross and Dracula's like, Wah! like a terrorized, angry, reactive response that people who I know that tend to like to make the world heavy have whenever you talk about anything like this. And so I found it fascinating over time that my friends, not just the ones that are more logical, but the ones with the heaviest energy, whenever I try to pull them into this reality, will resist and resist and resist and resist. And what you'll find over time is that if you look at their lives, they have actually created what you'd call self-generated resistance in so many different places in their lives so that they can justify having ego, to justify the need for grandiosity, to sort of justify having enemies, and to sort of hold themselves in this kind of hell on earth or sort of lower level purgatory realm and sort of pull up that energy of hell. Now, I mentioned Sam Vaknin, who I've mentioned, I think this is the third time I mentioned this video, just because I want you to check him out. I think he's got great ideas on the idea of what it's like to have hell on earth and cluster B personality disorders. And one thing that he talks about is how if somebody, for example, has borderline personality disorder, which is a disorder of intense emotional dysregulation and of intense fear of abandonment. And sadly, I think something like 11% of people with BPD, they believe, kill themselves. I might have misquoted that. What'll happen is if you date somebody who has a borderline personality disorder, oftentimes that begins to seep its way into you, and you can begin to act in a way that is emotionally dysregulated. And you can even act in a way where you start to get a fear of abandonment. For example, some people that are narcissists will date a borderline, but then when a borderline kind of chews them up and spits them out and abandons them and ghosts them, the narcissist shifts into being a borderline who actually has fear of abandonment. Or the borderline can switch into being a sociopath or a psychopath. They call it a secondary psychopath. You can look all this stuff up. It's amazing. It's wildly intense and a dark world. So in energy work, what they would say is that high vibration energy wants to spread and low vibration energy wants to spread. And it's funny that in the Bible, Jesus will talk about the importance of forgiveness. And forgiveness is one of the great epicenters of Christianity and the idea of helping your enemies. Well, where does that come from? It comes from the idea that if that low-level energy, that energy of death, that energy of hell, that low-vibe energy, whatever you want to call it, you call it whatever you want, when that's trying to spread, it feeds off of reactivity. So when you forgive an enemy, or you forgive your ex-girlfriend, or you forgive your ex-business partner, or you forgive somebody that attacked you, or you help out somebody who did you wrong, what you're actually doing is you are removing that reactive energy from our plane of existence. So for example, I was actually on the Tim Pool show recently. Tim is amazing and incredibly welcoming to me. And Tim was talking about, he had a really interesting example that he went deep on. He was talking about how some people on the left wing of the political ideology, I think it was Ethan Klein from H3H3 and Kathy Griffin, a comedian, they had been banned on Twitter. And what he was saying was that because they had not spoken up for freedom of speech and they had promoted other people to get banned, that he didn't want to defend them. And then, I was talking to Tim a little bit about it, and I was saying, actually, I would never wish for anybody but to get banned, and I can forgive people. And Tim was like, dude, you're crazy. Like, why do you feel that way? What I didn't have time to explain to Tim in that session that I did with Tim, which he was very welcoming to me, and I don't even know if he'd resonate with this at all, if I'm being honest, but I'm just going to share it here anyway, is the idea that the reason why you forgive people specifically because you want to remove that reactive energy. Your goal as a higher thinking person is to get rid of that us versus them energy. I'd even mentioned that Ethan had made bad videos about me, really bad ones. But I said I would never wish for him to get banned because I don't want to feed that reactive energy. I would always stick up for Ethan. Doesn't matter what he did for me. And he probably doesn't feel the same way. But that's okay. That's completely fine. I would always stick up for the other person because I don't want to feed that reactive energy, okay? So the main goal in spiritual growth is to kind of cleanse yourself of that reactive heavy energy, but it's also to be able to absorb that reactive energy from other people. And if you bring down that kind of energy of heaven, like I'm calling it, which is just a thought experiment, When you're bringing that down, you have a direct connection to that. What winds up happening is that hits you, but it absorbs it. And so now what you're doing is you're kind of removing that from this plane of existence. Now, I've definitely been tested. I've had people betray me and stab me in the back in ways that I can't even begin to tell you. And I felt what it's like to kind of get disconnected from that great energy, get disconnected and feel myself in my ego. Maybe you're dating somebody with BPD, or maybe you're taking on their emotional dysregulation, or maybe you're working with somebody who's a sociopath. I've had all these experiences. And a lot of their heavy energy and their reactive tendencies where they just make the world harder begins to infect you. Okay, what would be an example of that? Maybe I'm working with somebody and they're like, well, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I'm like, look, that's all real. Why don't we just meet up and have fun and go build something and we'll make way more money? No, I can't do that. Why can't they do it? Because if we meet up, we're going to go have fun. It's the energy of heaven. They don't resonate with that. They don't care about the money. If they cared about the money, they'd come meet up. They don't care about the money. They're stuck in that mode. They're stuck in that mode of reactive energy and complaining. I've seen this for years with different people that I work with. I love everybody that I work with. I help everybody that I work with. I forgive everybody I've ever worked with if we didn't end well. But I've just seen this for years and years and years. So I've seen it in my romantic life. I've seen it in my work life. I've seen it with friends who have it, they can have a heavy time. And what they don't get is that they're seeing things from the physical world of scarcity and of limit. They're not seeing the world from the infinite and expansion, and they're not realizing that a series of solutions that work at one paradigm, or that energy of hell, or that kind of purgatory realm, there's a whole other set of solutions from that more expansive infinite realm. Now, again, you remember when I started this video, I said, look, I'm just some guy. I'm not some perfect holy man. I'm some guy with a social media channel and a pink jacket. I'm not perfect with this. I'm on my journey. I can have slip-ups, especially if I've been around people like that. They start to get in my head a little bit and I can react. I'm not a perfect person. Maybe I'll even get sick someday. I don't know. I'm just making the point that this is something that has helped me personally. I've seen tremendous results in public speaking from it. I've seen tremendous results in making videos from it. I've seen tremendous results socially. I've seen tremendous results in building a business. And if you can actually take this on, I believe that it can really change your life. But again, it comes down to you making a decision that you're going to make your life easy. Now, the flip side of this, what I've also seen is woo-woo people who are afraid of hard work, or they're afraid of confronting somebody who's coming after them, or they're afraid of seeing reality as it is, including a harsh place. You can also acknowledge reality as being a harsh place. You can acknowledge that while at the same time bringing positive energy into it. So I think the other kind of failure point where you can see somebody, it actually still the energy of hell, is somebody who's like, everything is love and light, everything is awesome. And those are people that you'll usually see that have cavities, health issues, they're broke, they steal from people because they're not acknowledging the physical world for what it is. So really what it is it's a combination. Like, both sides are correct. It's almost like the cross. You are that intermediary point. There's spiritual depth and the physical breadth, and you are that intermediary point. So can you navigate a complex world of people that are difficult, can be enemies, a world that does have scarcity, a world that does have competition, and can you compete? But then at the same time, channel that energy of heaven, we'll say. Can you channel that in and add that as another dimension in your life? Eckhart Tolle, what he says is that you put one foot, it kind of like, almost like there's like two little cat litter boxes. One foot is in the physical, other foot is in your core essence of who you are. So you want to be able to navigate both. You're going to have wins of this, you're going to fall off of this, but the main key is the more that you can bring that energy into your own life, the better that life gets. Life can be very, very, very easy. And what I'd say to you is that life is this sort of infinite journey of endless learning. And if you can make a habit of recognizing, okay, I'm not forgiving somebody, it's making my energy heavy. Okay, I'm feeling abandoned, it's making my energy heavy. Okay, I'm feeling angry, it's making my energy heavy. Okay, I'm addicted on little dopamine spikes, it's making my energy heavy. And the more that you can pull your energy back, get present, pull down that beautiful energy, have it move through you, the easier that life gets. And frankly, look, when I'm going to be here at the San Diego event this weekend, and I'm speaking for 2 full days, and I'm speaking for 12 hours or 15 hours, I've got to be able to do this or my voice is going to go out, my energy is going to run out. But you know what I find? If I stay in this pocket, in most cases, what winds up happening is I actually gain more energy as I'm working. And talk about being competitive, again, that cross, and realizing the world does have competition, but also has that other beautiful divine dimension to it. What winds up happening is that you wind up becoming perhaps an amazing speaker because you can speak for 15 hours. Because you're not competitive, you wind up competing even more. So if you're somebody who just cares about brass tacks results and this even irritates you, that's okay. Don't have to believe it. Just a simple thought experiment. Who knows what the truth is? We don't even know. Just try it as a thought experiment, and it might change your life. So I'm going to go get ready for my event here in San Diego. I got another one coming up in LA in 2 weeks. So we're going to be doing these all over the country myself. My team's doing these all over the world. And if for any reason you haven't had a chance to fly into one of these events that are completely for free, I'd urge you to click the link below. We have an entirely free course that shows you some of the best lessons from attending a live event. So we're going to be sharing that as well. You're going to love it. It's going to transform your life. Click those links. Excited to meet you in person as well, and excited for you to be internalizing this knowledge, changing your life, and hitting that next level. Life can be easy, life can be hard, and I wish you the best. Peace.